Right, hello guys, and welcome back to my first build for the Renegades expansion. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I definitely am, but we're going to cut straight to gameplay here because this is quite possibly one of the most fun Warlock builds that I've ever had the pleasure of playing. As you can see from the gameplay, there are several things going on in the background. We are going to be placing our rifts incredibly often. We have so much going on with our threadlings jumping around everywhere. Our super is recharging incredibly quickly. We are suspending everything. We are healing all the time, struggling to die. We've got overshields, powerful weapons. The list goes on. And essentially, this all revolves around the brand new exotic that was given to us with Renegades, the Deimosuffusion. So you might also be a little bit confused because this exotic is not Deimosuffusion. It's actually an ornament for Dawn Chorus. But this is because I'm using the new ornament selection feature here. This is what it looks like normally. Not terribly flattering. Does have a pretty insane ornament though, so I may end up copying that. But Deimosuffusion, what does it do? It states that while a Strand super is equipped, casting Rift will suspend nearby combatants. Suspend deals damage over time, which heals you in the process. Targets who break free from suspension suffer additional damage. Defeating suspended targets heals you a moderate amount. So essentially, this exotic that looks like Dawn Chorus now is essentially like a really good survivability tool for Strand Warlock. I played this in a bunch of Lawless Frontier activities, which you will be seeing in the background gameplay, even on higher difficulties, and it feels really good. Like, it feels very difficult to die when you are using this weapon if you build around it correctly. And I wanted to show you here, we are in the firing range, and this is the ultimate level firing range. So these enemies are 30 levels above me, and I just wanted to show you how quickly, if you suspend enough enemies, it is possible for you to gain all of your health back and overshields and so on with the Rift. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to damage myself a little bit to the point where I'm literally almost dead. So we'll go like around here, let's say. Yep, there we go. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to suspend all these enemies. Look how quickly I get my health back. And look at the damage over time as well. These guys are taking pretty significant damage. These are, you know, orange bars at ultimate difficulty. Obviously, the Rift is not going to kill them outright, but they are ticking so frequently for the heals. You're basically never going to run out of healing. And even if they break free, they're going to take more damage. And I didn't even shoot my guns or anything. So it's just easy cleanup with weapons after that. So yeah, very strong exotic. And I'm going to show you today how to build around it in the best way possible to make it the most fun and the most effective. And by the way, if you missed it, yesterday we posted a video where we tested every single relevant super for damage in the Renegade sandbox, and there were quite a few surprises. And actually, I did want to say, I had a commenter point out that the Needle Storm is bugged right now, because if you saw the video and were disappointed by the damage of Needle Storm with Metadoxia like I was because it's not actually scaling with the super stat. Funnily enough, it is scaling with the grenade stat. Classic Destiny 2 being broken when a new update comes out, but that number should hopefully be higher. So yeah, just wanted to clear that up a little bit. Needle Storm with Metadoxia will be fixed in a future update if you saw yesterday's video. But anyway, let's get back to today's video. So without further ado, let's get into it. And if you enjoyed today's content, then a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated. So starting with the subclass, we are going to be on pure Strand Warlock, obviously, because it kind of works the best with this. There is no realm where this works well with Prismatic. We kind of have to be on pure Strand Warlock here. Now, for the Rift of choice to work with the exotic, I am going with Healing Rift because your survivability, while good with Deimosuffusion, could still use a little bit of a backup. We don't necessarily need Empowering Rift here, and I just, prefer Healing Rift because of the heals. It might help you survive certain situations, so go with Healing Rift. Melee ability, we are locked to Arcane Needle, still very solid though. For the grenade, we are actually going with the Shackle Grenade. This is very important because it is going to mesh very well with our first aspect, which is going to be Mind Spun Invocation. This will make it so you can hold to consume your Shackle Grenade and activate Weaver's Trance. Final blows while Weaver's Trance is active create a suspending detonation, and this actually lasts for 25 seconds. And if you remember from the days of old back in Lightfall, this was actually a very popular build with Osteostriga, and now it's kind of slightly different using Deimosuffusion now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to consume my grenade here just to show you guys real quick. Got Weaver's Trance for 25 seconds on the left of my screen, and now when I kill this enemy here, it's going to make a suspending explosion, and with Deimosuffusion, every single source of suspend that you create will count for the perk. It's not just from the Rift. So if I suspend an enemy in any means possible, it will heal me, it will deal damage over time. It affects every single suspend source that you have, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that's why we are taking Mind Spun Invocation. You could make an argument for the Wanderer, and I am actually going to come back to this and make a different argument for the Wanderer later when we discuss our weapon choices. But for the time being, I still think that Mind Spun Invocation is more value, despite the Wanderer letting your threadlings create tangles and the tangles themselves being able to suspend a large group of enemies, I think Mindsplit Invocation is more value, me personally. Anyway, onto the second aspect, we have Weaver's Call. This is going to make it so activating your class ability will weave 3 threadlings and deploy any threadlings you have perched, and then dealing damage and defeating targets generates perched threadlings. So it also has a third perk, which isn't listed on here, which basically makes it so threadling damage gives you class ability energy, and I believe it's 10% per, threadling that hits something, so it's just another way of getting your class ability back, which is, going to be very good for getting our Deimosuffusion loop going. More suspends equals more heals, more damage over time, etc. So Weaver's Call, you basically have to run this aspect now with all the buffs it's received over time. It's just very, very solid. So that does it for the aspects. Now let's talk about the fragments real quick. The first one we are using is Thread of Mind. This will make it so defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. Very important because we are suspending everything, and how are we suspending things most often? With our class ability. So if we are getting the energy back from doing so, it is very good to have this. In fact, if I show you here, if I suspend all of these enemies, just look at my class ability energy, how quickly it comes back just because I'm defeating the enemies. Yeah, so there we have it again. I can show you one more time. We'll suspend these enemies, suspend all 3 of them here, and we'll defeat them. Healing's going to give me a bunch of energy back. And we're basically back to another rift. So as long as there are plenty of enemies to be suspended in the first place, you're essentially never going to run out of rift energy, which is really, really nice with Thread of Mind. Moving along, the next fragment we have is Thread of Warding. This will make it so picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. Unfortunately, because we cannot use Weave Walk with this build, we have to think about other ways of getting Woven Mail. And because Strand Warlock on its own has no access to things like Amplified or any other convenient forms of damage resistance, we are essentially forced into using this to increase our survivability just a little bit more. But the other main way that we are going to get lots of overshield and survivability is actually going to be through the class stats, but I'll talk about that in just a moment. Thread of Warding is here just as a backup, pretty nice to have. The third fragment is going to be Thread of Evolution. This will make it so threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage, and I believe it's 33%, and it also gives you +10 super, which is pretty nice. Then the final fragment is going to be Thread of Generation, which will make it so dealing damage generates grenade energy. So this will just make it so we can get back to our shackle grenade faster, which means that we can activate Weaver's Trance more often, and if you kill enough things, well, within your first Weaver's Trance, you should get your shackle grenade back for the next one if you have this fragment. And a good grenade stat, of course, but we'll get into that. And actually, yeah, let's talk about that now, going into the stats of this build. So the main stat that I've opted for this build is actually going to be 200 class. And the reason we are taking 200 class is because the overshield that you get at 200 class is going to help with your survivability, because we have less optimal uptime on Woven Mail, so we need something to help keep us alive in higher level content so that we are not as squishy, because like I said, Strand Warlock is a pretty squishy class. So I have 183 class, and the way that I'm getting to 200 is by having a class font on my class item. So that's going to give me +20, so I'm going to go all the way to 200. The overshield that you get at 200 class is nothing to scoff at. It is, I think, around 40 HP. I'll have the actual number on screen, but it also has a 50% damage resistance attached to it. It is essentially double the HP of what it is stated to be because of the 50% DR. So it's just a little bit of extra health, which does help in certain situations. In fact, with 180, you can see it in game here. If I pop my rift, you'll see that the majority of my health bar there has got that blue marker on it, and it is helped a little bit by the overshield that you get from healing rift, but the overshield is there. As for your other two stats, the only ones that matter are super and grenade. I have both of mine at 80, and then I am topping them off with a super font to get it to 100, again with +20, and then I also have a grenade font on my gloves, which will get my grenade to 100. The reason you want grenade at 100 is because it makes it so the grenade energy returns you get from killing things via Thread of Generation is the maximum amount of return, so you get to your shackle grenade back the fastest, and having 100 super is the best for spamming your needle storm as often as possible. As for the armor pieces that let me achieve this setup, my Deimosuffusion is actually the collection roll, believe it or not. So if you want to get this exact piece, you can pull it from collections because it is a specialist. It's a specialist with a tertiary stat in grenade. After that, I have a grenadier on my gloves with a tertiary stat in class. Then my chest piece is a specialist with a tertiary stat in super. My boots are a grenadier with a tertiary stat in class. And then my class item is a specialist with a tertiary stat in grenade. So that does it for our stats. Now let's talk weapons. And it's here that I just want to really praise the blasters. The blasters are awesome. I don't know if you guys have really had much of a chance to use them, but these things are fantastic. Genuinely. genuinely. And actually, the one that you're seeing in front of you right here, the all or nothing pulse rifle, it feels really, really good. I have Firefly and thermal atomization on mine, which is basically like, think about it as heat frenzy. When you have high heat, it deals 15% more damage, and obviously you have Firefly here. And the nice thing about heat weapons is that if you have really high heat with Firefly, if I get a kill here, a precision final blow, and I vent, it's going to be really quick, and it doesn't even have to be a perfect vent. The reload scalar from Firefly affects the venting speed of the weapon, so I'll get it to around medium heat here, just so there's no confusion. I'll get another precision final blow, and I'll vent it, and it's really quick. So if you can get yourself an all or nothing with Firefly and a damage perk like I have, this actually pairs really nicely with the build. It's a strand weapon as well, so you're going to get lots of threadlings being spawned with Weaver's Call, which is pretty nice. And then for my energy slot, I have gone for the Uncivil Discourse, again, which is another blaster weapon. I have air trigger and thermal atomization on this one. Not the best roll, it's not even a tier 5, but it's still pretty solid. You know, I really like using this weapon as sort of a major shutdown tool. It does quite a lot of damage, as you can see, 357, does a lot more versus mages, and it's very easy to manage the heat of it as well. And you'll also never run out of ammo with this thing. I don't know what it is, but in all of the activities that I played, I barely ran out of ammo with this special heat gun. So very good, much recommend it. Finally, the last weapon that I want you to use with this build is the Service of Luzaku. This is the seasonal machine gun, so anybody can get this from rank 1 if you have the premium track, or for free if you get to rank 70. And this is just going to be a very good addition to the build, like a very good side piece, because all it's going to do is spawn a bunch of threadlings in the background, and if you have the catalyst, well, we're going to talk about that in just a second. So if you didn't watch any of the creator previews, this gun is essentially like, think of it like a threadling printer that has infinite ammo in certain situations. So if I get a few kills, well, there you go. With kills, it spawns a threadling nest, and this thing kind of loses health over time, but you can heal it using the machine gun, and doing so costs no ammo, and it also does not make the magazine go down. So what this is going to do is just, you know, spawn a bunch of threadlings just over and over, and just getting kills will repeatedly spawn more of these. You can have multiple up at a time. There is no cap to how many of these you can have, which is pretty nice. And one cool piece of tech that I want you to be aware of is that you should use these nests as a way to reload your machine gun. So if I sort of spend all of my bullets here, but I have healing energy, I can heal the nest, and it actually increases my magazine all the way back up to the top, which is really nice. So to avoid reloading, make sure you're healing your nest. Keep it topped up. So quickly talking about the catalyst for this thing, it comes from rank 90, and I am nowhere near close to rank 90, but it is quite cool because it says that your nests now mature over time. Fully mature nests can be harvested with E to grant yourself a held tangle. Now this is pretty cool because if you instead chose to use the Wanderer instead of Mindspun Invocation, then this basically means that you'll get way more tangles, way more tangle uptime, way more suspension. So I think when you get to the point where you have this catalyst available, maybe the Wanderer is more optimal than Mindspun Invocation, but up to that point, definitely not, because you are not making nearly as many tangles. But with the amount of nests that you can make with this machine gun, pairing it with Wanderer, being able to spend things with that rather than Mindspun is probably going to be the better play. But for the time being, Mindspun I think is just the way to go. Just remember that though, if you yourself have this catalyst when you're watching the video, definitely try the Wanderer and see how it feels compared to Mindspun. So yeah, those are going to be our weapons. Just go for the coolest heat weapons that you want and Service of Luzaku. Now, as far as the artifact is concerned, there are actually 0 strand mods currently in the artifact, so none of these actually really help the build at all. Perhaps Elemental Siphon to make it so, you know, whenever you get kills, it spawns tangles. This also adheres to the global tangle cooldown, so it's not like it allows you to spawn an extra tangle, at least I don't think it does. Elemental Siphon, the rest is just kind of up to you. Yeah, I really wouldn't bother with anything else in the artifact. Maybe Counter Energy if you're playing content with champions in it, but yeah, at the moment there are no strand mods. Perhaps we will see new strand mods in the next major update, but that remains to be seen. Lastly, for the armor set bonus that you want to use for this build, actually I think the armor set that is the best is the raid armor from the Desert Perpetual normal mode. And the reason for that is because it makes it so your strand debuffs that you apply to enemies will last 50% longer if you have the full 4-piece set. Now, obviously this is asking a lot because this is a full set from a very difficult raid, so if you don't have this, definitely don't worry, but the value of the effect is pretty strong. You know, you get 50% longer lasting suspends, which is really nice, and this build is all about suspend and strand debuffs, so it fits perfectly into it. But if you don't have that, then armor set honestly doesn't really matter, just feel free to tinker it with yourself, but in my opinion, the most optimal would be the one from the normal mode Desert Perpetual. Okay, so finishing up now with the armor mods on each of our pieces with the helmet on Deimosuffusion, we are going to go with 1 super font because this is going to increase our super stat by 20, which for me is going to take me from 80 to 100, which is pretty nice. I also have a heavy ammo finder on here so that my Service of Luzaku basically never runs out of ammo, and a Strand siphon so that both my All or Nothing and Service of Luzaku can make orbs on double kills. For the gloves, we have 1 grenade font and 1 melee font, again to improve my stats, and a Strand loader to improve the reload speed or vent speed of my Strand weapons. The chest piece doesn't matter, can be whatever resist mods match the activity you are playing. Then for the boots, we have stacks on stacks to make it so whenever we collect an orb, we get 2 armor charges, innovation, and then absolution, so that every time we collect an orb, it actually gives us a good chunk of grenade energy back and class ability energy at the same time. Finally, for the class item, we have time dilation to improve the length of our fonts, 1 class font, again to get us all the way up to 200 class, then a powerful attraction so that when we use our rift, which we will be very often, it collects any orbs in the nearby vicinity. Now, as far as the optimal gameplay loop is concerned for this build, you basically just want to throw yourself into the biggest clump of enemies you can, pop your rift to then get your overshield going from 200 class and get the damage over time and healing from any suspends that you happen to cause. Then in killing the enemies that you suspended, you will get a bunch of energy back for your next rift, and then basically just continue the process over and over again, making sure to proc your Weaver's Trance here and there whenever you have your Shackle Grenade, and then basically just having a bunch of fun with it. This, like I said at the beginning, this build is very, very fun to use, and I promise you, you won't regret trying it. And it works really well in the new Lawless Frontier activity, so please try it there, you won't regret it. If you are curious about the fashion for this build, I have it on the screen right now. Shout out to Crips again and his community for the inspiration on this one. Very cool looking set. Had to cop the Taken set just to make sure I got this fashion, so pause and take a screenshot if you'd like to copy. I think it looks pretty nice. But with that, we have come to the end of the video. So I hope you enjoyed my first build for Renegades. We have plenty more coming for Warlocks, Titans, and Hunters, so definitely stay tuned to the channel. Again, as a reminder, we did a whole bunch of super testing yesterday, so if you want to see what is the best for your main class in terms of supers in the Renegade sandbox, definitely check out that video if you want as well. But with that, that is all we've got for today, so thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.